Happy New Year, everyone. It's been a while since I've seen you in this medium on video, and so I'm glad to be back. And after having a couple days off, it's good to be back here in Tama, in Chelsea, in Belle Plaine, doing ministry with all of you. Today is the 4th of January, and so it's that time of year where some of us are still trying to make a New Year's resolution. I've done that from time to time throughout my life, and I found that sometimes with my New Year's resolutions, I fail pretty quickly, and I've wondered why that's the case. And I think some of it is that they're sometimes just focused on myself. Have you ever noticed that sometimes in New Year's resolutions, they're just focused on my own self-betterment, my own self, pushing myself forward in some way. And without some sort of goal that has to do with others or something bigger than myself, it kind of falls apart. But I wonder what would happen if we allowed God to help us with our New Year's resolutions. If we asked God to help us to know His will for us in the coming year. Well, I think our readings today really help us to see what God's will might be for us in another year. That in some way or another, that these can influence and inform our goals for the year. In our gospel today, we hear Jesus, as He looks at the crowd, that His heart is moved with pity for them. He says that His heart is moved with pity because they're like sheep without a shepherd. And so He goes on to teach them many things, and then He feeds them. That's the feeding of the 5,000. His heart is moved with pity. And in the Greek, there's this fun word that I can't pronounce, but it actually means that he feels something deep within his organs, that he feels something from a really guttural place for these people. His compassion goes that deep. I think that's the sort of thing that the Lord wants from each of us, that we would feel His compassionate heart for others, that we would feel that great love He has for each of us for our brothers and sisters. St. Elizabeth Ann Seton, the saint that we celebrate today, was one who did feel that great compassion for others, that she was married and then her husband died, but after that, her compassion overflowed in great ways. She was the first American-born saint and the one who brought Catholic schools to the United States for the first time. And she was totally resigned to God's will and always asking Him to inform all of her decisions. The first letter of St. John tells us that we should love one another because love is of God, because God is love. That is what the Lord wants of us, is deep and compassionate, heart-wrenching love for other people. And it's not something that we can make happen on our own, not something that we can just will ourselves into. We can't say, I want to have compassion for this person. But we have to ask the Lord to give us that compassion, that heartfelt, gut-wrenching love for another person. And that first letter of St. John makes that clear. It says, in this is love, not that we have loved God. It's not because we have loved God that we know love, but it's because He has loved us first. And every bit of love that we are able to show to another person comes from the font of love, from God Himself. So perhaps our New Year's resolution can be to ask the Lord for a compassionate heart, a gut-wrenching love for every person, every one of His creatures, especially those who do not know Jesus and those who have forgotten the love of the Father. That we might be the instruments of the Lord, that they might know God's love through us.